So let's talk about it. Today on my desk, I have the Superglide V2, and for comparison, I have the Superglide V1, and I also have the Pat Smith Empress down here at the bottom. Now, the Superglide V2 has been out for about a week now. I'm sure a lot of you probably got your hands on it, a lot of you haven't. But this is for the people that haven't, that's on the fence about buying this pad compared to the V1 and what's the differences, and is it worth the money? So these days, when you buying glass mouse pads, a lot of these mouse pads these days are just side grades, in the words of fresh. It's very few glass mouse pads that come out that are actually worth your money, because they typically are very expensive. And this pad is also on the expensive side. It's an $89 pad if you get the large, and it's a $99 pad if you get the XL. And this is the XL, the 490 by 420. I can't remember the dimensions of the large, but yeah, it's a standard size 490 by 420. So if you had an artisan XL before or any other pad of that nature, then it's going to be a very similar size to that. For me, the Superglide V2 has been a very fun and interesting experience. It's, for one, very smooth, a lot more smooth compared to the V1. The V1 was already a decently smooth pad, but you still got some texture depending on what skates you was using. And then you come and use the Superglide V2, and it's a game changer. Very smooth pad, one of the smoothest glass pads I have used, and I've tried a few of the glass mouse pads. I've had some sent out to me to test out, some that I probably won't ever do a review on, I just didn't like them that much. But this pad definitely is a pad that is very smooth, and it's definitely up there with the smoothest glass pads on the market. Pulsar definitely did that thing with this pad, and I feel like what they was overall trying to achieve with this pad, I feel like they did accomplish that. I think overall what I'm getting from this pad and what they did with the V1, I'm getting from this pad is that they want to make a similar experience, but make it smoother and make it slightly more controlled. And I think overall they achieved that. So kind of how they spoke on the smooth experience, same thing with the control. This pad offers very similar speed to the V1. It's damn near identical in my opinion, like real talk. Like I got Cyclones on, and just off the glide alone, like it's very similar to a certain degree. This pad's a little bit more dusty too, so that plays a factor because I didn't really wipe it off that much before recording. But yeah, so they play similar to each other in terms of speed, but it's also weird because it's very skate dependent. Like the Cyclones feel almost identical on the two pads, and then you got the Pulsar skates that's provided in the pad, which these are Obsidian Pros. I'm just gonna call them Obsidian Pros. Until Pulsar throw a name on theirs, I'm just gonna call these Obsidian Pros, because that's exactly what they feel like. And with these Obsidian Pros, these are very smooth. You know what I'm saying? These are designed to be a slow mud skate. So that's exactly what they are. And then when you take it over here, they play like similar but different depending on the skate. But for the most part, the speed is the exact same. The Superglide V2 probably is a touch slower just because of the added control, but overall they are very similar to each other. And I've talked to some people in the community who felt the same way. It's some people who think these are two completely different mouse pads, and I mean, to a certain degree, they are. But for the most part, in terms of speed, very, very similar. I feel like if you are a person that's comparing it and you want to know which one you want to buy for the speed factor, they're very similar in speed, but if you want to touch more control than you have with the V1, then this might be the mouse pad for you. I feel like this pad's a little bit more nicer, a little bit more friendly to beginners who never tried glass pads before overall. So yeah. Now, outside of the speed and the control and talking about the smoothness of the pad, I feel like the biggest selling point of this pad is the fact that it is 1.5 millimeters in thickness. So if you don't know, that is extremely thin. And if you haven't seen the YouTube short, check out that YouTube short while I directly compare these two mouse pads to each other in terms of thickness. This pad is so noticeably thin compared to this, and that's why I feel like it's one of the biggest selling points, because when using glass mouse pads that is thicker, because the bezels and the corners and just the overall surface of the pad is a lot different than what your desk might be. And for me, I'm not a person that plays with a desk size mouse pad under my mouse pads. You know what I'm saying? I'm a person that just play with the surface. Let's go, throw a sleeve on, let's get active. You know what I'm saying? For me, the fact that this pad is so much more thinner than what I've been using in the past in terms of glass is a very fun and damn near game-changing experience, because I feel like for whatever reason, it feels like the pad is virtually not here. It feels like it's like I'm using a cloth pad. It feels like it's non-existent and I'm just moving my hand. And I throw a sleeve on and it feels even better. And then even outside of that, it's not fatiguing. So for me, after I spend 4 or 5 plus hours or whatever, my wrists will start hurting, my forearms start hurting, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. And I know a lot of you can relate. And with this pad, I don't have those same issues. And even with how the pad feels overall, I can damn near not use a sleeve with this pad. This pad is amazing. I ain't gonna lie to you, it's a really good pad. But yeah, so I feel like that's one of the biggest pros about this pad is the thickness of it. It's so thin that it's like it's nothing there at times. And I feel like that's gonna draw a lot of people to using glass mouse pads, because I've had a lot of people in my comment section, a lot of people I talk to in general, who say they literally don't play glass because it hurts their hand, it hurts their wrist, it hurts their forearm, it's annoying, it's fatiguing. And I feel like this pad would be a game changer. I 100% believe in like the next 3 to 6 months that this mouse pad is going to be the reason why you see everybody have super thin mouse pads that's super smooth, if it hasn't happened already. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember seeing Toons on Twitter talk about it. He was like trying to figure out, well, how the hell did Pulsar, do this? Because we tried to experiment with thin mouse pads and we could not figure it out. And Pulsar somehow did it. So like I said, expect in the next 3 to 6 months, you're gonna see announcements. You're gonna see companies talking about making super thin mouse pads like Pulsar did, because I ain't gonna lie to you, they just set a trend with this. I ain't even gonna count to you. Now, I done spent the whole damn video talking about the V1 and the V2, but I want to kind of touch on the Empress, because the Empress is a mouse pad that, if you know me, if you ask me what is in my current rotation, if you go look on my gears profile, I'm going to tell you that 9 times out of 10, I'm using the Empress. If I'm not using the Empress, I'm using the Shidenkai. That's just what my go-to combination has been lately. And bruh, I shit you not, the way the Empress feels and the way the V2 feels to each other is so similar, it's crazy. The V2 is obviously faster, but it's not too crazy of a difference to where it's like, whoa, it's very similar in experience. Like, I don't have, like, this pad obviously is slower, it's a lot more muddier, it's designed to be a balanced mouse pad, so a lot of that ice skate floaty feeling is just going to be non-existent. You know what I'm saying? Like, with this pad, you can tell it's a little bit slippier, and then you go over here and it's noticeable. But even comparing the 3 pads to each other, from the V1 Empress to the V2 is still noticeably more controlled than the, and that's why I say the Empress and the V2 share a lot of similarities. Even during the sound test, is going to happen in a few minutes here. The sound test, they are very similar to each other in sound and overall feel and smoothness as well. Like, the Pulsar one has a little bit different of a texture, but overall how smooth the pads feel, great, amazing pads. So I definitely would say, like, if you are a person who always wanted to experiment, or you always want to try the Empress but it's always sold out, you haven't found a good deal, or you just, you ain't got a lot of money to spend, the V2 could be a good alternative to the Empress, in my opinion. I know it seemed kind of far-fetched maybe to some people. Some people are like, hell no, bro, you tripping. But to me personally, the V2 could be a good alternative to the Empress if you want to try a pad that offers, more control and that's a little bit more balanced. This pad is definitely faster, but I feel like 100% that it's worth trying at least, because this pad is a very fun pad, and I feel like the same experience that I had with this pad is very similar to the experience that I'm having with this pad so far, and that's why this pad's been glued to my desk, because it feels like something I've used before, but it's still unique in its own way. This is the Superglide V1 versus the V2 sound test. First up, Cyclones. Next up is the Pulsar provided mouse skates on the V1 and the V2. Next up, we have the Yanzi dots. My God, these are so smooth. Love these skates. And for this next one, I 100% recommend cutting your volume down because these are the TJX plastic skates and these hoes is dumb loud. Good God. Sound like goddamn sandpaper. God damn. All right, next up, we have the Superglide V2 compared to the Empress sound test Cyclone dots. Very similar. I'm kind of surprised. Very similar. You hear some of the dust and shit, but oh wow. Okay. Interesting right there. That is very interesting. Next up, we have the Pulsar provided dots. I'm gonna just start calling these Obsidian Pros. Let's see. Not loud. Not too loud. Not too loud. Very smooth glide. Very high like initial friction, but very smooth glide though. Not loud. Man, I'm telling you, bro. It's like Pulsar got this pad from the same factory Empress made theirs, bro, or something, bro. Like it's so similar, it's crazy, bro. Next up, we have the Yanzi dots. Let's go. And just like I said before, you might want to cut your volume down. TJX plastic skates. Let's go. Goddamn sandpaper. It's just a little bit louder on here. Just a little bit, but it's very similar. Oh shit. So who is this mouse pad for? Who would I recommend buying this mouse pad? Number one, if you already own a V1 and you're looking to buy a V2, I do feel like that this pad is unique enough that you can spend your $80 to $100 or more, depending on how much where you stay, how much you're paying or whatever. I feel like it's unique enough to the point where you can buy this pad and notice a difference in your gameplay, but not because this pad is just gonna make you a better aimer, but because how thin the pad is. I feel like that the thinness of the pad overall is going to basically improve your gameplay off of that strength alone, just because you're able to use this pad for longer game sessions. You're able to use this pad without feeling fatigued. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely a better pad in that sense. Is it different enough to where, you know, the V1 is the superior, the V2 is the superior? I can't tell you that. It's all based off your preference, but I can definitely tell if you want a smooth experience, the V2 is your option. Now, if you are a person who's new to glass mouse pads, you never bought one before, you hate glass mouse pads, this pad might be good enough to where I could recommend it to you. But usually my go-to glass mouse pad recommendation for people is always the Empress. Whenever it's somebody who never tried a glass mouse pad before, I always say the Empress is the pad you want to get because it's a balanced, controlled feeling. It's a lot more forgiving, and it introduces you to the speed and the overall feel of glass. And then once you feel comfortable, you build up the mouse control, the raw aim. That's when you can go experiment with a Superglide V1 or V2 or a Skypad 4.0 or whatever you want to try. You know what I'm saying? The Empress is always my recommendation, and that's what I would say for people who are beginners to glass mouse pads. Now, if you're a veteran in the game, you know what I'm saying, you've been using glass for forever now. You've been using glass as the first Skypad type shit, you know what I'm saying? You one of the ones that love speed, then you can get the V2 and you will like this pad because it's going to remind you of a similar experience that you had with other glass mouse pads that you experimented with. I will say, like I said before, the thinness of it is what's going to make it a game changer. Because it's so thin, it's going to be a lot less fatiguing to use and overall a lot more fun to use for longer gaming sessions. That's overall my thoughts and my feelings on the Superglide V2. I definitely feel like it's worth the money. I want to see what Pulsar go from here with this pad and what new designs they're going to do with it and things like that. But overall, I feel like Pulsar definitely might have set a trend in the community because we're going to be seeing a lot of thin mouse pads coming out if they haven't already, and it's going to be crazy to see. But with that being said, I've been doing hella talking. My voice hurt, man. I'm going to see y'all in the next review. Stay safe. Peace out.